Chapter 4 Mr. Phileas Fogg and the Elephant Ride. Phileas Fogg and his manservant Passepartout boarded the train to Calcutta. Till now the journey across the world was on schedule. Mr. Fogg's carriage contained himself, his servant, and Sir Francis Cromarty. As the train crossed the mountains, Sir Francis, who was acquainted with Mr. Fogg's plan to go round the world, observed,
"Some years ago, Mr. Fogg, you would have met with a delay here, which might have cost you your wager.
How so, Sir Francis?
Because the railway stopped at the base of these mountains, and the passengers had to cross over on ponies or in palanquins to Kandala. Such a delay would have had no effect on my plans. I have constantly seen the likelihood of certain obstacles,"
was the calm reply. Sir Francis had no reply. The train left the mountains and passed Nasik and proceeded through the fertile plains. At Berhampur, Passepartout was able to buy himself a pair of ornamental Indian slippers. At 8 o'clock the next day, the train stopped in the middle of the glade where there were several bungalows and workmen's carriages. The conductor passed along the carriages shouting,
Passengers will get out here. Do we stop here?
Phileas Fogg asked the conductor.
"Certainly the railway is not finished. 50 miles more have to be laid between here and Allahabad, where the line starts again."
Sir Francis was furious, but Mr. Fogg spoke quietly.
"Let us look for some form of conveyance to Allahabad. I have 2 extra days I gained on the way to Bombay to sacrifice. Our steamer leaves Calcutta for Hong Kong on the 25th. Today is the 22nd. We shall reach Calcutta in time, I'm certain."
The other passengers began to engage such vehicles as the village could provide 4-wheeled palki garis, palanquins and ponies. Mr. Fogg and Sir Francis searched the village from end to end for some means of transport, but found nothing. Mr. Fogg was preparing to set off on foot when Passepartout exclaimed,
"Monsieur, I think I have found a means of conveyance. An elephant. There is an Indian nearby who has an elephant."
The Indian, however, refused point blank to hire out his elephant to them. He turned down offers of 10, 20, even 40 pounds an hour for the journey to Allahabad. Mr. Fogg was not put out in the least. He offered to buy the elephant outright and offered 1,000 pounds for it. The Indian, scenting a bargain, continued to refuse. Sir Francis took Mr. Fogg aside and begged him to reflect before he went on any further. But that gentleman replied that he was not in the habit of acting rashly and that the elephant was absolutely necessary for him to win his bet of 20,000 pounds, no matter what it costs. He raised his offer to 1,200, then 1,500 and finally to 2,000 pounds, at which price the Indian agreed. Passepartout had heard the bargaining, white-faced and aghast.
What a price! Great heavens!
He exclaimed.
For an elephant!
It only remained now to find a guide, which proved to be quite easy. A young Parsi gratefully accepted Mr. Fogg's generous fee to serve as a guide. The elephant was led out and equipped with provisions bought for the journey. The gentleman climbed onto the howdah while Passepartout sat on the saddle-cloth between them, and the Parsi perched on the elephant's neck. At 9 o'clock they set out from the village, taking the shortest route to their destination. The journey was not without adventure, but Mr. Fogg and Passepartout rose to the occasion. The elephant made good time and crossed the vast plain. They reached Allahabad in less than 24 hours. This made it possible for Mr. Fogg to catch the steamer that left Calcutta for Hong Kong at noon the next day. From Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, adapted. Acquainted, knew about. Wager, bet. Base, here, foothills. Palanquin, a covered box with openings at the 2 sides for carrying 1 passenger, carried on 2 horizontal poles by 4 men. Obstacles, difficulties. Glade, an open space or clearing in a wood or forest. Conveyance, means of transport. Monsieur, a title used in French, similar to Mr. in English. Bargain, a good deal. Aghast, horrified. Howdah, a seat for riding on the back of a camel or an elephant, generally with a canopy for 2 or more people. Perched, sat on the edge. Say aloud. Listen to and repeat these words from the story. Conveyance, palanquin, bargain, perched, aghast.